Hello, and thank you for choosing to watch this video. This is part of a series on imaginary or what if or fantasy box tops for model kits that I wish had been made when I was growing up and I first saw some of the films and TV that these are based on. The Firefox is from the Clint Eastwood film of 1982, and it's a fictional, thought-controlled Mach 6 radar-invisible aircraft. It's really cool. It's a really fun film. It doesn't get a lot of attention, but the plane is great. It's just a beautiful design. They built it full size for the film. It's all fake, which is really commendable. They built models and invented all sorts of different ways to film this thing, and it's just really fun, and it's a really cool plane. There are some resin kits of this available in different scales, but a classic 1/72nd scale Airfix kit would have been really great. This kit would be great in the shiny black plastic that they used for their World War II bombers like the Lancaster and the Wellington. Technically, the box style by 1982 had changed. Airfix were doing photographs of the built-up models on the box, or they were using some of their old artwork with a lot of the details and the action and fighting and war taken out, which was a real shame. So this is kind of a classic Airfix box of the 70s, which is the style I grew up with. But yeah, great design. I think Greg Jean, the famous visual effects model maker, I think he designed this. He certainly was involved. And I think William Kreber, who did a lot of the work with Irvin Allen, designed the Flying Sub, I think he was involved in the movie at some point, but I'm really not sure exactly who designed this thing. And I'm sure Clint Eastwood himself had a hand in it. Something else that's the title vehicle is the SS Poseidon from the 1972 film The Poseidon Adventure, which really ushered in the disaster movie craze of the early 70s. They shot this on the Queen Mary that was based in Los Angeles for all the stuff before the ship capsizes, and then they built a model of the Queen Mary and put the Poseidon name on it and everything, so that what was shot on deck matched with the model stuff. This painting shows the ship on the night of the catastrophe. In the film, it's very overloaded. It's top heavy and it's going too fast, and it gets hit by a tidal wave and capsizes, and then the film follows a group of survivors as they try and escape through the upside down ship. Of course, you wouldn't get that in the model. This would be just a good bog standard 1/600th scale, Airfix's scale for ocean liners and big ships, model of the SS Poseidon. And if you wanted to do it as the Queen Mary, you could probably do that too with a change of the nameplate. Another vehicle that is a star of the film, although not in the title, is the Nautilus from Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and this is the version seen in the 1950s Disney movie, and definitely the most famous version of the ship. I mean, the Nautilus, as designed for this film, is quite a departure from what Verne describes in his book, but it's just fantastic. And I think any sort of film that's set in the Victorian era with any sort of futurism or technology all looks at this film and stands on its shoulders in terms of what things should look like. I mean, it looks like it works inside and out. It's just beautiful. It's scary. I can't say enough positive things about this design. It was designed by a guy named Harper Goff, who was a genius at this sort of thing and was heavily involved in designing Disneyland as well. This would be a 1/44 scale kit because the ship was 212 feet long. They actually built a waterline full-scale mock-up for the top with the actors. So at 1/44 scale, it would come in about a little under 18 inches, which would be a nice size. Airfix didn't really have a terribly consistent scale for their ships. I think, they range from 1/87th to 1/26th, sort of whatever worked. So 1/44 is a pretty standard scale, and the SRN for hovercraft was the scale, so it seemed like a good size. I think the Russian T-34 tank came in this kind of very chocolatey brown color, which could pass off for brass. Another ship that is a star of the film it's in very much is the Nostromo from the 1979 movie Alien. And much like the Nautilus, 99% of the action in the story takes place on the ship. So it's very important, inside and out. It's a horror film, so it's, dark on purpose. There's lots of, places for things to hide and make it all creepy and stuff. And that's sort of similar on the outside too. So you don't get a great look at it a lot of the time. This image is of it landing on planet LV-426, where they go and investigate a distress signal. And it's probably a little bit lighter here than you see it in the film, just to sort of try and get a decent look at it. It's about 800 feet long, I think. So in 1/600th scale, it would be about 16 inches. It would still be a decent sized model. There's a lifeboat that is also part of the ship for escaping, and that would come in at about half an inch in length. So pretty tiny, but not impossible that you could have that as a sort of removable piece, just to give the kit a little bit of play value. The miniature in the film was like 10 or 11 feet long. I mean, it's massive and just covered in tiny details and stuff. So this would be a challenge. I think there was a kit of this done. I think somebody actually did this, either a resin or maybe an injection molded kit. Sticking with aliens, there is an absolutely sensational film called Quatermass and the Pit that was the third of the Quatermass series the BBC made in the 1950s, and this one was the third film that Hammer made in colour in the 60s. And just watch the movie. It's just, there's too much in it to describe. But there is this vessel that they find, which is just a really cool, unique design. It's not very big. It's probably about 20-30 feet long, so it'd be 3 or 4 inches long in 72nd scale, but it's alien in design, and it just doesn't look like anything else, and it's totally smooth surface. It looks totally alien. It looks like it's from another planet. You could argue that this should be in 1/76th. If it was, then you could put it with HO railway accessories or some of the AFV kits, but then it's a spaceship / aircraft, so 72nd is a more appropriate scale. This could either be done in a nice shiny grey plastic, or it'd be really fun if it was in that light blue plastic that FX used for a lot of their World War II German Luftwaffe planes, because there is a point in the movie where they think this thing was a part of a propaganda exercise from the Second World War. So if it was in that plastic used for those German warplanes, that'd be kind of funny. Sticking with British sci-fi and aliens, there's probably none more famous than the Dalek. Doctor Who is obviously a massively successful and popular and enduring show, been running for, off and on 60 years or so. And I think the Dalek is probably certainly the most recognizable thing after the police telephone box, the TARDIS. I mean, you talk to anyone of a sort of certain age, they'll refer to any conical or cylindrical or sort of dustbin shaped thing as a Dalek. Daleks are just fantastic design created by Terry Nation. Raymond Cusick, who was a BBC designer, designed the things. Yes, they look like pepper pots. Yes, they have a sink plunger on the front, but they are just terrifying. There's no human characteristic to look at. There's no emotion, there's no expression, there's nothing. They just glide around saying exterminate and promptly then do. I mean, this image sort of shows a Dalek at work, on an alien planet, and probably there's some stuff burning in the background from the destruction, and he's firing his gun and he's looking around and just doing what Daleks do. So yeah, 12th scale, this would be a nice 6 or 7 inches as a kit. Should be, decent. And there are kits, there's toys and kits of this available now. But certainly when I was growing up in the 70s and Genesis of the Daleks was on, the show was really big and Daleks were really big, and I would have loved an accurate toy or kit of a Dalek. And of course, they came in lots of different colours and this slight detail variations sort of over the years. So there'd be a lot of modelling opportunities there if you've got some optional parts with it. Be fun little kit. So this is the Triffid from the 1963 film, The Day of the Triffids. It's a good, pulpy sci-fi horror movie. It's not a patch on the book. The book is fantastic, but lots of good scares. The Triffids themselves are pretty convincingly done. They're sort of shown in quick cuts and in stark lighting and in shadows and stuff. So they're sort of conveyed well. In researching this painting, I saw that there are quite a few variations or discrepancies, if you like, in the way the Triffids look. Like the little ones you see growing in the ground have some different characteristics than the big ones you see kind of walking around. And the ones you see in the lighthouse scenes are quite different. And I know that was shot by a separate team. So maybe they're sort of different props, or maybe because they're by the sea, they're covered in seaweed. And I don't know, you don't really notice any of this stuff in the film, because as I said, they are treated very much as like, it's a Triffid, and it's a quick scare. And that's what I really want to sort of convey on this box top. I mean, it's an Aurora box top, because Aurora famously did Monsters of the Movies series with Frankenstein's monster and Dracula and the Wolfman, the classic Universal monsters from the 40s. And had they done this when they were doing those other kits in the 60s, this would have actually been a contemporary kit. This was a 1963 film, and I think that was about the time they were certainly doing a lot of stuff. The meteor shower sort of in the sky, which in the film, either the Triffids kind of arrive on meteorites, or the meteor storm somehow sort of energizes them to come to life and sort of start walking around. The Aurora kits had glow-in-the-dark pieces, and I think the Triffid, it's really a bit tricky. I mean, certainly the head part could be glow-in-the-dark, and then maybe some of the sort of vines and stringy bits could be glow-in-the-dark. And also you see this appendage at the front that pulls it along or is kind of looking for where it should go, and that could maybe be a kind of glow-in-the-dark piece. So it's a great design. A tiny bit of nerdy trivia. In the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial, there's a scene inside E.T.'s ship where you see a lot of the stuff they've been collecting from, presumably from other planets. And as the camera's panning by, a couple of the plants you see are Triffids from this film, which is just a fun little piece of nerd trivia in there. But not all aliens of Earth are menaces and dangerous. So sort of after Close Encounters had come out in the late 70s, aliens sort of in movies for about the next 10 years were depicted as kind of friendly and nice and not coming here to take over and blow everything up like they were in the 50s. So this is the Antarian spaceship from the movie Cocoon. And Cocoon is just a lovely film. A group of aliens sort of revisit Earth, and they sort of befriend the people who live in an old people's home and sort of rejuvenate them. It's a really lovely film. And it has this really cool flying saucer designed by Ralph McQuarrie, and the effects were by ILM, supervised by Ken Ralston, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. It looks massive. There's beautiful James Horner music that goes with it. So I think it's got to be between 1,500 and 1,800 feet across. I mean, it looks massive. So this says 1,200 scale and over 12 inches. I don't know, something bigger than that would be a bit unwieldy. This probably wouldn't be the most riveting kit to make, because it is basically a flying saucer. There's this kind of cone at the bottom of it that sort of opens out, and that's how ships and things get into it and out of it. That would be very small in the scale, so maybe that would be an optional part, closed and open, maybe. There's very prominent lighting in the film, so maybe I should have done this with lights involved. I just love this ship, as simple as it is. It's just so elegant and just looks so good on screen. And as I said, with the James Horner music, it's really, really something. So a case where aliens didn't come to Earth, but we went to them, were the old Flash Gordon serials from the 1930s starring Buster Crabbe. These are the famous black and white serials with the rockets that sort of sputter smoke and sparks out the back. So Flash Gordon would get in Dr. Zarkov's rocket ship, and they'd go off to Mongo with Dale Arden, and the three of them would battle Ming the Merciless. So it was just great, fun, adventure stuff. And for whatever reason, like Zarkov's ship looks really similar to the Ming ships, even though they're from two different cultures. I just thought, partly because when you're watching it, you're kind of like, who's that? Is that Zarkov? Is that Ming's guys? So I thought a dogfight double with these two, very similar looking ships would actually just be fun. And this painting sort of shows them attacking each other. It shows Ming's ship attacking Flash's ship as it kind of tries to get out of the way. They're sort of flying over this kind of desert canyony area where they would, like Star Wars, there was like the desert area and the snow area and the jungle area. I mean, it was very, very much informed Star Wars. And when you're a little kid, it's just as much fun. You think of a classic sci-fi spaceship or rocket ship, and this is what they look like: sleek, teardrop shape, and just really neat. 72nd scale. These aren't big, but about 4 inches long, about 25 feet, something like that. And there'd be just a couple of really fun little kits. The silvery swirly plastic that I love so much would certainly be in use. Come on a nice dogfight double stand, so you could have them facing each other. Piece of trivia: there's a film that was made called Just Imagine. It was this huge sci-fi musical set in the then futuristic world of 1980, and that's where the rocket ships were originally designed. They were designed signed for this very big, expensive production that flopped, and no one's really heard of it or talks about it since. But if you do catch that film, you will see a Flash Gordon rocket ship that they used to go to Mars. So I think to save some money, they got hold of that prop, and I think the miniature as well, at least as a starting point for the Flash Gordon stuff. But that's a whole nother thing. The last thing I have here is a painting I did recently of Roy Cross, who did all of the Airfix box tops over the years. Tanks, planes, cars, just absolutely fantastic artist, very memorable images that just made you want to buy the kits. So I did this painting of him for this video. I sort of dressed it up as an Airfix box, just as a little celebration of him and his work. It's 2023. He just had his 99th birthday, so congratulations to him, and just a huge thank you to him and the people at Airfix for all the great kits that they did and the great artwork, and just inspiring people to sort of make models and learn about a lot of these vehicles. So the things here are all just, what if, wouldn't it have been great if, when I saw 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I wanted the Nautilus so bad, and if they'd done a kit, I would have grabbed it. So that's about it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please put them below. I have lots more artwork like this I'm putting together. There is another video of fantasy what if box art if you want to check that out too. Thanks again for watching, and see you soon.